Hey, today we have a very fun type of riddle. We asked AI to modernize these images of famous people who lived a long time ago. So I'll show you those images, and you have to guess who the person is. Sound like fun? So let's get started, and don't forget to keep your score. Starting out easy, can you recognize this man? This is Napoleon Bonaparte, a famous French military leader. Many may know him for his short stature, but it's not exactly true. He was 5 feet 5 inches tall, which is nothing extreme. Also, did you know that he was a real romantic? At the age of 26, he wrote a short romance novel. Now, this famous woman, do you think you know who she is? Of course, it's Frida Kahlo, the famous Mexican painter. During her life, she suffered an accident and spent a lot of time in bed. That's when she started drawing herself looking in the mirror. During her short life, she created 143 paintings, and over a third of them were self-portraits. Next up is this guy right here. Do you have any guesses? This is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, a famous Austrian composer. Actually, this is not even his real name. His full name was this challenging mouthful. I can see why he shortened it. He wrote his first composition at just 4 or 5 years old. The sources differ a little bit, but either way, he was very young. Okay, the next person up is this young girl. I know you can recognize her, so who is she? This is Anne Frank. She received a notebook that became her famous diary on her 13th birthday. Also, there are 2 versions of the diary. Version A is the original one, and version B is a rewritten one prepared for publication. Now, take a close look at the next modernized photo. This man lived a long time ago. Do you think you can recognize him? Well, I did give you a little hint. Yes, that's Aristotle, a famous philosopher living in ancient Greece. He's the founder of zoology, and he made major contributions to other disciplines. Back in the day, people called him the man who knew everything. Here's another photo for you, and a couple of seconds to think. Can you recognize the person in the photo? This is Karl Marx, a German philosopher of the 19th century. Even though his ideas are widely discussed to this day, Marx lived in extreme poverty during his life and even had a fake name to hide from creditors. He's one of the most well-known philosophers today, but only about 11 people attended his funeral. Another famous person for you to guess. He made an important contribution to science. Do you know in which field and who he is? If you were attentive at school, you will likely recognize Isaac Newton, the famous physicist, mathematician, and astronomer. Yes, the one that was hit by an apple. Well, actually, he wasn't hit by that apple, but he observed it falling and developed his famous theory of gravity. Newton never married, but might have had a beloved dog, Diamond. Now, what about this gentleman? Do you recognize him? It's Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes stories. But do you know it's not the only story he can be credited for? Apparently, he also wrote a book called The Lost World, which inspired Jurassic Park movies. Also, he believed in fairies, was mesmerized by spirituality, and was a member of a paranormal investigation group called the Ghost Club, along with Charles Dickens. What about this historical icon in her modern look? Do you have any ideas? That's the one and only Coco Chanel. She ended up in the orphanage at the age of 12, learned to sew there, and started out by designing hats. She is the one who introduced pants for women and created the first women's suit. Now, I'm pretty sure you know who this man is. All you have to do now is recognize him in this 21st century touch. Any ideas? It's Mark Twain, a famous writer. He made his fortune with two of his most famous novels, Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. But he was a poor businessman. He made several bad investments and lost $200,000, which was huge money considering that an average family earned $1,200 a year at the time. Yet, he turned down Alexander Graham Bell to invest in his new invention, the telephone. Hey, we all make mistakes. We have yet another scientist here. Can you recognize him? It's the famous inventor and electrical engineer Nikola Tesla. The guy was actually born during a fierce lightning storm. Also, he was close friends with Mark Twain. The two bonded over photography and would meet up quite often, despite living on different continents. The friends would often hang out in Tesla's laboratory. The next photo is of this lady, or what she would look like if she lived today. But who is she, and when did she really live? It's Queen Victoria, who ruled England in the 19th century. While she wasn't born to be a direct heir to the throne, she was raised in strict discipline to be prepared to be queen in case something happened to the people in line before her. The girl had many lessons, was constantly supervised, and even had to share a bedroom with her mother. Now, do you have any thoughts on who this could be? A small hint, he lived a very, very long ago. It's Homer, a well-known Greek poet, most famous for his work Iliad and Odyssey. Not much is known about him. Scientists aren't even sure in which century he was born, probably somewhere between 12 and 8 BCE. Most of the stuff we know about him comes from his own poems. It's believed that they are, to some extent, autobiographical. He mentions a blind poet in the Odyssey, so it's commonly believed that Homer was blind himself. Here's the next famous historical figure. What's your best guess? This is William Shakespeare, the one who wrote Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, and other famous literary pieces. He was the son of a glove maker and had 7 siblings. He wrote at least 37 plays, but he wasn't just a writer, he was an actor too. From what is known, he played a ghost in his own Hamlet. Next up is this woman. A small hint, it's someone from the literary world. Now, what's your guess? This is Emily Bronte, one of the famous Bronte sisters. She wrote many poems, but just one novel, Wuthering Heights. Emily was the shyest of the sisters and very close to her younger sister Anne. Okay, do you know who this is? Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer. He is commonly believed to be the guy who discovered America, but it's not true. On his voyage to the New World, he was the first to sight the Bahamas archipelago and the island of Hispaniola, that's now split into Haiti and the Dominican Republic. From there, he went south and never reached what is now the USA. Okay, just a few people left in this quiz. Next up, this guy. I'll give you a clue. It's another famous author, and I'm pretty sure you've read his most famous story. So, what's your call? It's Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland. But not only was he a great writer, but he was also an outstanding mathematician. He taught math, and he published many math books under his birth name, Charles Ludwig Dodson. But even Alice in Wonderland actually has many math lessons and references in it. Our next figure today is this woman right here. Do you have any guesses? It's Mary Wollstonecraft, a women's rights activist advocating for equal education for men and women. Here's the last figure for today. Do you know who she is? It's Edith Cowan, another women's rights activist. She was the first woman in history elected to the Australian Parliament. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.